Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us once again for Morning Book Buzz. We are so excited to be here again to tell you about more wonderful, wonderful reads. I am Elizabeth Fabian from the Library Marketing Group, and while I usually am presenting to you from Connecticut or New York, to this morning I am presenting from beautiful Vermont, where it is a lovely, lovely day. I hope it is beautiful where you are too. I am going to let my colleagues introduce themselves, my fellow panelists this morning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Campfield, and it is sunny here, a little coastal fog actually, and I'm calling in from Malibu, California. And thanks so much for coming.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel, and I'm buzzing to you from Poughkeepsie, New York, where it is also sunny, very sunny indeed. Thanks so much for joining us today.
We, like I said, are so grateful that you have joined us month after month to hear about all the wonderful books that we have. We can't believe it's August already. I can't believe that summer is coming to the final stretch, but it means that we're coming into the fall season, which means great, great books for everybody, whether you're a fiction lover or a nonfiction lover, and we are so excited to begin telling you about them. So the biggie that will start, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't go through the slide of all the formats. You will see on our slides, we have tried to put all the formats that the books are going to be available in, from hardcover to trade, large print ebook, audio download. And wherever you see that wonderful orange E, it means that there is an eGalley available for request either on NetGalley or Edelweiss or both. So please do check that out. And then a reminder that we will send a wrap up out after the presentation. So all of the URLs will be there. We'll have a list of the books in all their formats so that you can get everything and don't feel like you need to rush to write everything down. So I guess we'll start off with the books. We could not be more thrilled to be announcing and share the news with you that Michelle Obama has a new book coming this fall. We learned about it probably about 24 hours before the rest of the world learned about it, and people were jumping up and down and clapping. So we are really, really excited to share this with you. The Light We Carry will be published on November 15th, and in it, Mrs. Obama shares practical wisdom and powerful strategies for staying hopeful and balanced in today's uncertain world. She tackles all of those tough questions that we face, from everything from how do we build enduring and honest relationships? How do we discover strength and community inside our differences? What do we do to address feelings of self-doubt? And what do we do when it all starts to feel like too much? This is Mrs. Obama at her most intimate, relatable, and inspiring. And as a colleague of ours put it, reading this book is like having Mrs. Obama give you a giant hug while she's giving you advice. So we're all very excited about it. We hope you are too. And we can't wait to see it.
Fandom lovers and pop culture enthusiasts can join us Thursday, August 18th for LibraryCon 2022. We'll have a number of celebrated creators, graphic novel and comic artists, authors, and if you're subscribed to our e-newsletter or follow us on socials, then you may have heard the great news. We officially announced the keynote speaker for LibraryCon is Ralph Macchio of Karate Kid and Cobra Kai fame. He'll be discussing
Yay!
his forthcoming memoir, Waxing On. Yay! So please register if you haven't and join in. It's going to be so, so much fun.
A treat for all the children of the 80s like me.
You can also join us for our next library lunch and learn, featuring cookbooks and culinary stories, taking place October 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And as always, if you miss an episode, you can check out previous Lunch and Learn episodes on our YouTube channel, and you can visit the tiny URL on the screen and check those out.
And we are so excited that one of our favorite events will be back this fall. The Library Journal Day of Dialogue will be back on October 20th, inviting all sorts of librarians, from school librarians to public librarians and everyone in between, to join for a day of great author panels, virtual booths with lots of resources, and a chance to chat with the library marketing departments from so many publishers. We have just submitted our author pitch list, so we are so excited to see who they select to be on the panels. And I think whoever is chosen, I mean, the list was amazing, so I don't think you'll be disappointed. We hope you will join us there. The registration is already open, so please do sign up, and you can get all the news as it comes in as soon as Library Journal is ready to announce. And then we are so proud of all of the samplers that we've been able to do to help introduce new readers to new authors. It's one of our favorite ways to get new books into people's hands. And this summer we created a summer sampler filled with lots of wonderful beach reads, and it included some of our favorites like Linda Holmes, who many of you know, her new book, Flying Solo, and Sylvia Morena Garcia's new book, The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, but it also includes excerpts from debuts like Tomia Barrow's Delhi-Wed's Destiny. And we hope that if you haven't had a chance to dip in yet, you will, and that you discover someone new or that you haven't read yet. And we hope you'll share it with your patrons too. There's still a month of summer left, and they can be introduced to some great new writers that hopefully they'll follow throughout their careers.
So we have officially entered the dead of summer, and we wanted to celebrate by putting together our first ever horror sampler, featuring excerpts from forthcoming novels by your favorite horror authors, Grady Hendrix, Josh Mallerman, Alexis Henderson, and more. This little sampler packs a seriously scary punch, so we hope you read it and download it and enjoy it. And for those of you unsure what to read next, you can take our quiz where you'll be guided to your perfect horror read based on the spooky first lines of different novels. Okay, and speaking of horror, I'm going to kick us off with Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. From the acclaimed author of The Remaking and Whisper Down the Lane, this terrifying supernatural page-turner will make you think twice about opening doors to the unknown. Erin hasn't been able to set a single boundary with her charismatic but reckless college ex-boyfriend, Silas. When he asks her to bail him out of rehab, again, she knows she needs to cut him off. But days after he gets out, Silas turns up dead of an overdose in their hometown of Richmond, Virginia, and Erin's world falls apart. Then a friend tells her about Ghost, a new drug that allows users to see the dead. Want to get haunted? He asks. Grieving and desperate for closure with Silas, Erin agrees to a pill-popping seance. But the drug has unfathomable side effects, and once you take it, you can never go back. Chapman was a guest speaker on our recent horror panel at our spring festival, where he speaks about the inspiration behind the book, and you can check out that video on our YouTube channel. And Ghost Eaters is perfect for adult supernatural horror readers who are fans of movies and shows like Lights Out, It Follows, and The Haunting of Bly Manor, as well as fans of female-led thrilling action-packed horror like Survive the Night by Riley Sager and The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix.
Next is Daphne by Josh Malerman, the New York Times bestselling author of Bird Box, so it is sure to scare the pants off of you. And Josh was also one of the panelists on our horror panel for the Spring Festival, and the discussion between he and Clay is amazing, so I also encourage you to check that out. But here, Mallory is back with something terrifying. It is the last summer for Kit Lamb, the summer before college, the last summer with her high school basketball team, and with Dana, her best friend, the last summer before her life really begins. But the night before the big game, one of the players tells a ghost story about Daphne, a girl who went to their school many years ago and died under mysterious circumstances. Some say she was murdered, others say that she died by her own hand, and still others say that she was a murderer herself. They also say that she's still out there and obsessed with revenge and will appear again to kill any time someone thinks about her. After Kit hears the story, her teammates vanish, one by one, and Kit begins to suspect the stories about Daphne are real and fears that her own mind is conjuring the killer. Now it's a race against time as Kit searches for the truth behind the legend and learns to face her own fears. With Daphne, Mallerman mixes a nostalgic coming-of-age story with an instantly iconic female villain and an innovative reimagining of the slasher genre. And as one advanced review warns, Daphne will scare the bejesus out of you.
I love this retro cover for Mother Thing. So Mother Thing is get ready for Halloween. This is a perfect Halloween read. And as an editorial note took me off guard, cannibalism is in. Who knew? So, this is a darkly funny domestic horror novel about a woman who must take drastic measures to save her husband and herself from the vengeful ghost of her mother in law, hence Mother Thing. So, when Ralph and Abby Lamb move in with Ralph's mother, Laura, Abby is hopeful to bond with her after her own traumatic childhood. She's just got so much love to give to her husband, to her mother in law, and to a very special friend, Mrs. Bondi, who's her favorite resident at the long term care home where she works. But Laura, her mother in law, is not interested in bonding with her daughter in law. She's very cruel, venomous, and life with her becomes hellish. When Laura takes her own life, her ghost begins to haunt Abby and Ralph in very different ways. Ralph is plunged into depression. Abby is terrorized by this force intent on destroying everything she loves. So, with everything on the line, Abby comes up with a chilling plan. All it requires is a little ingenuity, a lot of determination, and a unique recipe for chicken a la king. So, can you tell that this is not only a chilling tale, it's also laugh out loud funny and really a poignant love story all at once.
Next is a debut novel, Jackal, by Erin E. Adams, a first-generation Haitian American. In Jackal, a young Black girl goes missing in the woods outside her white Rust Belt town, but she's not the first, and she may not be the last. Liz Roche is coming home reluctantly. As a Black woman, Liz doesn't exactly have fond memories of Johnson, Pennsylvania, a predominantly white town. But her best friend's getting married, so she braces for a weekend of awkward, passive-aggressive reunions. But on the day of the wedding, somewhere between dancing and dessert, the couple's daughter, Caroline, disappears, and the only thing left behind is a piece of white fabric covered in blood. As a frantic search begins, with the police combing the trees for Caroline, Liz is the only one who notices a pattern: a summer night, a missing girl, a party in the woods. It can't be coincidence. She's seen this before. Keisha Woodson, the only other Black girl in Liz's high school, walked into the woods with a mysterious man and was later found with her heart removed. As Liz starts to dig through the town's history, she uncovers a horrifying secret. Children have been going missing in these woods for years, all of them Black and all of them girls. Author Megan Gildings raves. Jackal is a thrilling blend of detective story, turn all the lights on in your house while reading horror, and social commentary on how often women of color, especially Black women, go missing and get little attention.
So, with such sharp teeth, this is a powerful feminist novel about werewolves. Rory Morris isn't thrilled to be moving back to her hometown in the Catskills, even if it is temporary. There are bad memories there, but her twin sister Scarlett is pregnant, estranged from the baby's father, and needs support. After a night out at a bar where she runs into an almost flame, she hits a large animal with her car. When she gets out to investigate, she's attacked. Rory survives miraculously, but life begins to look and feel different. She's unnaturally strong with an aversion to silver, and suddenly the moon has her in its sights. Is she putting those close to her in danger, she wonders, or should she embrace the wildness within? This is a darkly comedic love story. It's a layered portrait of trauma, rage, and vulnerability. Great for fans of Grady Hendrix. And the author previously wrote Cackle and The Return was nominated for a Bram Stoker Award. She's a great writer. This is her short fictions appeared in many literary journals, and she lives in Western New York. So this would be, if you love Grady Hendrix, this is a wonderful new book to start with, and a feminist horror werewolf tale. What could be more appealing?
And speaking of Grady Hendrix, we've got How to Sell a Haunted House. New York Times bestselling author Grady Hendrix takes on the haunted house in a hilarious and terrifying new novel that explores the way your past and your family can haunt you like nothing else. Louise's parents have passed away, and she's returning to the small southern town where she grew up to get their house ready to sell. It means she'll have to spend time with her younger brother, and their old grudges that make that a terrifying prospect. But childhood hurts pale in comparison to the dangers posed by what still lives inside the house. A film adaptation of his backlist hit My Best Friend's Exorcism is currently in production, so we hope to see a whole new audience of Hendrix fans coming on board very soon. And this novel is perfect for lovers of other horror films, as well as readers of Edgar Cantero, Riley Sager, and Paul Tremblay. We're very excited about this one.
Now we have some wonderful ballet books. So starting with Center Center, this is the memoir of, uh, let's see, sorry, lost my notes. Yes, a funny, sexy, sad memoir about a boy in ballet. It's an inspiring memoir in essays. And here we have an American Ballet Theater principal dancer slash drag queen slash pop star who's redefining what it means to be a man in ballet. So the title refers to the mark on every stage around the world that signifies the center of its depth and its width, called Center Center. James Whiteside had dreamt of standing on that very mark as a principal dancer with a prestigious American Ballet Theater, as I mentioned, ever since he was 12 years old. So this is an absurd collection of essays and touching. He tells us how he got to be a primo ballerino, stopping along the way to muse about the tragically fated childhood pets who taught him how to feel. He reminisces here on ill-advised partying at summer dance camps. And also in these pages are tales of the two alter egos he created to subvert the strict classical rigor of ballet. J.B. Dubs, who's an out and proud pop musician, and Uhu Bitch, over-the-top drag queen named after Yoo-hoo chocolate milk. So this is going to be a really exuberant behind-the-scenes tour of his triple life, an unapologetic celebration of queerness, self-expression, friendship, sex, creativity, and pushing the boundaries. Misty Copeland calls James's memoir exquisitely raw, hilarious, and fresh. It shows there's a place in the world for anyone who's ever felt lost, misunderstood, or outrageously passionate. It's also illustrated with really funny black and white drawings, which illustrate some of James's finer moments. And so then moving on to the choreography of everyday life. This is from world-renowned choreographer Annie B. Parsons. It's her treatise on life, really. She translates the components of dance, time, space, motion, and tone into text. As we follow her through her days at home reading, on her walks down the street, and in and out of conversations on everything from Homer's Odyssey to feminist art to social protest, she helps us really see how dance is everything and everywhere, and how art making is a part of our everyday lives as well as our political lives. She's one of today's most famous modern dance choreographers. She's worked with an amazing range of artists: David Byrne, Mikhail Baryshnikov, Laurie Anderson, Brian Eno, Spike Lee, and David Bowie, to name some. It's also a fully illustrated book. It has over 60 black and white images, which are integrated into the text. And it just sounds like a timeless backlist book too.
Okay, next up we have Martha Graham, When Dance Became Modern by Neil Baldwin. A major biography, the first in 3 decades, of one of the most important artistic forces of the 20th century, the legendary American dancer and choreographer who upended dance, propelling the art form into the modern age, and whose profound and pioneering influence is still being felt today. Time magazine called her the dancer of the century. Her technique, used by dance companies throughout the world, became the first long-lasting alternative to the idiom of classical ballet. Her pioneering movements, powerful, dynamic, jagged, edgy, forthright, combined with her distinctive system of training, were the epitome of American modernism, performance as art. Her work continued to astonish and inspire for more than 60 years as she choreographed more than 180 works. This book contains never-before-seen images, with more than 100 rare archival photographs and is the first book to bring to life a full portrait of the artist and the woman. This is for readers of books on dance, modern dance, ballet, music, cultural history, Martha Graham, Paul Taylor, and Anna Sokolow.
We really do think ballet and dance is having a moment. It's kind of incredible how many books we have on our list, and I saw some love in the chat for the next one coming up, which is Mr. B, George Balanchine's 20th Century by Jennifer Homans. Arguably the greatest choreographer who ever lived, George Balanchine was one of the cultural titans of the 20th century. The New York Times called him the Shakespeare of dancing. His radical approach to choreography and life reinvented the art of ballet and made him a legend. Balanchine's life also intersected with some of the biggest historical events of his century. Born in Russia under the last Tsar, Balanchine experienced the upheavals of World War I, the Russian Revolution, exile, World War II, and the Cold War. And as the co-founder of the New York City Ballet, he pressed ballet into America and to the forefront of modernism and made it a popular art. None of it was easy. His life included loneliness and failures, including 5 marriages, and bouts of ill health and spiritual crises. But throughout his life, we see his profound musical skills and sensibility and his immense determination to make some of the most glorious, strange, and beautiful dances ever to grace the modern stage, including his now iconic version of the Nutcracker. Based on more than 100 interviews and research in archives across Russia, Europe, and the Americas, Mr. B is the first major biography of George Balanchine, and Jennifer Homans is the perfect person to tell it. She's the dance critic for The New Yorker, the author of Apollo's Angels, and a former dancer herself, and has spent more than a decade researching Balanchine's life.
And next up, we have They're Going to Love You by Meg Howry, a magnetic tale of betrayal, art, and ambition set in the world of professional ballet, New York City during the AIDS crisis, and present-day Los Angeles. Throughout her childhood, Carlisle Martin got to see her father, Robert, for only a few precious weeks a year when she visited the brownstone apartment in Greenwich Village he shared with his partner, James. Brilliant but troubled, James gave Carlisle an education in all that he held dear in life: literature, music, and most of all, dance. Seduced by the heady pull of mentorship and hoping to follow in the footsteps of her mother, a former Balanchine ballerina, Carlisle's aspiration to become a professional ballet dancer bloomed. But above all else, she longed to be asked to stay at the house on Bank Street, to be a part of Robert and James' sophisticated world, even as the AIDS crisis brings devastation to their community. Instead, a passionate love affair created a rift between the family, with shattering consequences that reverberated for decades to come. They're Going to Love You is a gripping and gorgeously written novel of heartbreaking intensity. With psychological precision and a masterfully revealed secret at its heart, it asks what it takes to be an artist in America and the price of forgiveness, of ambition, and of love. Howry is a former professional ballet dancer who performed with the Joffrey Ballet and City Ballet of Los Angeles, among others. So this book is perfect for fans of Michael Cunningham, Maggie Shipstead, and Jennifer Egan.
And to round out this slide, we have Nocturne by Alyssa Wees, a novel perfect for fans of darkly romantic retellings like Naomi Novik's Spinning Silver, Catherine Arden's The Bear and the Nightingale, and Heather Walters' Malice. And the cover, I think, is just stunning. How can you resist that? So the story begins. Growing up in Chicago's Little Sicily in the years following the Great War, Grace Dragata has always wanted to be a ballerina ever since she first peered through the windows of the North Ballet Company. So when she's orphaned, she chooses the ballet as her home, imagining herself forever ensconced in a transcendent world of light and beauty so different from her poor immigrant upbringing. Years later, with the Depression in full swing, Grace has become the company's new prima ballerina, though achieving her long-held dream is not the triumph she once envisioned. Her new position means the loss of her best friend in the world. Then she attracts the attention of the enigmatic Master La Rosa as her personal patron. But who is he and what does he want from her? As Grace begins to unlock the Master's secrets, she discovers that there is beauty in darkness as well as light, and that she finds that true friendship cannot be broken by time or distance. Nocturne is a new spin on familiar tales like The Phantom of the Opera and Beauty and the Beast, but it's also remarkably feminist, with unbreakable female friendships and exploring the roles of women and what they're expected to, the roles that women are expected to inhabit, both at the core of this novel. This is a wonderful new novel from a YA author who you may remember. Her YA book was The Waking Forest. She also trained for years in ballet, so brings an expertise to the novel. And she currently works as an assistant librarian in youth services in a public library in Illinois. So be sure to give her a lot of love.
That cover, I cannot get over how beautiful
I
that
know,
cover
it
is.
really is. It really, really is. And just a reminder, I hope some of you were able to join us for our most recent Lunch and Learn, where we were so lucky to be able to host Jennifer Homans, the author of Mr. B, in conversation with her amazing editor, David Ebershoff. If you missed it, I hope that you will check out the archive, which we have available on our YouTube channel, and we'll send the link. This conversation was amazing. It was riveting about art and life, struggle and resilience, and of course, dance.
We can't talk about dance without also talking about music. So I'm going to kick us off with Music in the 80s by Lynn Goldsmith. Over the past 50 years, Goldsmith has photographed hundreds of musicians in studio portrait sessions, at live concerts, on the road, and at home. In her new book, Music in the 80s, showcases an incredible range of artists during a decade when many new forms of music were gaining popularity. New wave, electronica, rap, metal, and ska had chart-topping success, as did R&B and pop. Michael Jackson, Philip Glass, Run DMC, Miles Davis, Judas Priest, these are but a few of the names that during this period became icons. The 80s was a time like no other in history, and the photographs chosen for this book are as diverse in their style as the music and dress of the decade. The book also features quotes from many of the people featured in Goldsmith's photographs, including Iggy Pop, Tina Turner, Keith Richards, Alice Cooper, Elvis Costello, and more, as well as those who were influenced by the tremendous cultural importance of the decade, proving that music in the 80s is sure to hit the right note for all lovers of music. This is for anyone who lived through the 80s, who loves 80s music, and for fans of Lynn Goldsmith, one of the most respected rock and roll photographers of all time.
And now for something pretty different. I feel that Declassified is a really unique book that we've all been waiting for. It's a low-key guide to the high-strung world of classical music. It's part reference guide, part memoir. It's like the best masterclass in classical music you never knew you needed. Ariana Warsaw found Rauch's lifelong fascination with classical music has taken her through Juilliard and international concert tours. She's loved classical music her whole life, but she's also hated classical music her whole life. After all, classical music is really just centuries of compositions shoved into one hodgepodge of a genre. So in Declassified, she takes on the elitism and exclusion and demystifies the world of high art while making the case that classical music really does matter, perhaps now more than ever. And while we're learning about the different musical periods and instruments essential in classical music, Rauch is also sharing her story, from picking up a violin at 2 years old to working the wedding circuit as a struggling student violinist. This starchy world of classical music really comes alive as we learn not just what it is, but how it is lived and experienced by musicians today. So as you can tell, it's an insider's look at a closed world. Few of us will perform with Yo-Yo Ma or Joshua Bell or walk the hallowed halls of Juilliard, but this takes us there with sparkling prose. And like I said, I really can't think of another book quite like it. And as a classical music lover, I listen all the time, but I don't have the proper framework for it. And I'm really looking forward to this book. And I hope your patrons will enjoy it as well.
Okay, next up we have Surrender, 40 Songs, One Story, by an artist who needs almost no introduction, Bono. Artist activist, and the lead singer of Irish rock band U2, has written a memoir. Honest and irreverent, intimate and profound, Surrender is the story of the remarkable life he's lived. Writing with candor, self-reflection, and humor, Bono opens the aperture on his life and the family, friends, and faith that have sustained, challenged, and shaped him. Surrender's subtitle, 40 Songs, One Story, is a nod to the book's 40 chapters, which are each named after a U2 song. Bono has also created 40 original drawings for Surrender, which will appear throughout the book. As one of the music world's most iconic artists and the co-founder of organizations One and Red, Bono's career has been written about extensively. But in Surrender, it's Bono who picks up the pen, as this is the first telling of the artist's own story, poised to be the equivalent of Patti Smith's Just Kids, Michelle Obama's Becoming, and Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. This is for readers of Dave Grohl's The Storyteller, Keith Richards' Life, and the legions of Bono fans.
Now I want to put a Bono and U2 soundtrack on in the background for us to listen to. Another memoir coming from the artist himself. Next is The Book of Jose, a gritty and intimate memoir from the Grammy-nominated, multi-platinum selling artist, entrepreneur, and philanthropist Fat Joe. Fat Joe is a hip-hop legend, but this is not a tale of celebrity. It is the story of a kid who came of age in the South Bronx during its darkest years of drugs and violence, and how he navigated that traumatizing landscape until he found, through art, friendship, luck, and will, a rocky path to a different life. Born into a sprawling Puerto Rican and Cuban family in the projects, from infancy, Joe's life is threatened by violence. And by the time he starts middle school, he's faced with the grim choice that defined a generation, to become predator or prey. And soon Joe and his crew dominate the streets. But he finds his true love among the park jams, where the Bronx's wild energy takes musical form. His identity splits in two. He's a hustler, roaming record stores looking for beats, but he's also a budding rapper whose violent rep rings in the streets. As Joe's day-to-day life becomes more fraught with betrayal, addiction, and death, until he himself is shot and almost killed, he gravitates toward the music that gives him both a voice to tell the stories of his young life and the tools he needs to create a new one. This memoir is written in Joe's own compelling voice and will appeal to readers of the autobiography of Gucci Mane and Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by 50 Cent, and also fans of shows like Love and Hip Hop. And next, we were just talking about Patti Smith. Next is A Book of Days by Patti Smith. And here, Patti's art is not music, but images. In 2018, without any plan or agenda for what might happen next, Patti Smith posted her first Instagram photo, her hand with a simple message, "Hello, everybody." Known for shooting with her beloved Land Camera 250, Smith started posting images from her phone, including portraits of her kids, her radiator, her boots, and her cat Cairo, and fellow followers immediately felt an affinity with these miniature windows into her world, photographs of her daily coffee and the books that she's reading. Over time, a coherent story of a life devoted to art took shape, and more than 1 million followers responded to her unique aesthetic in images that chart her passions, devotions, obsessions, and whims. So here, with over 365 photographs taking you through a single year, many of them unique to this book, A Book of Days is a new way to explore the expansive mind of a visionary poet, writer, and performer. It's hopeful, playful, elegiac, and it is complete with an introduction by Smith herself that explores her process. A Book of Days is a timeless offering and an inspirational map of an artist's life.
Cannot wait for that book. She's so personable. I love her. So The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. This is a huge publishing event for us. This is legendary music producer Rick Rubin's manifesto, really, many years in the making. No one in the music industry has a greater mystique. The range of artists he's produced speaks volumes, from the Beastie Boys to Kanye West, now known as Ye, my daughter tells me, to Jay-Z, to Adele, Lana Del Rey, Johnny Cash. I mean, it's an incredible range. Tom Petty. I could go on and on. Leonard Cohen. Anyway, Rick Rubin is known for really creating a space where these artists, the artists he works with, of all different genres and traditions, can home in on who they really are and what they really have to offer. So over the years, he's thought deeply about where creativity comes from, where it doesn't. He's learned that being an artist is about your relationship to the world, and that creativity has a place in everyone's life. And everyone can make that place larger in their life. In fact, there are few more important responsibilities. The creative act is beautifully distills the wisdom he's gleaned from a lifetime's work. His is a beloved voice. Rick and Malcolm Gladwell have partnered for a music podcast called Broken Record. It's always in the top of Apple's most popular podcasts. His Showtime documentary, series of conversations with Paul McCartney about his craft, was one of Showtime's most watched programs of the last 5 years. And we can think of this like Liz Gilbert's Big Magic or Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. It's a guide to creativity that is really a guide to life. And this book will have quite longevity, much beyond, reads by musicians. So look for that in January. And really incredible premise for a novel. The Whalebone Theater is a debut novel. It spans 1919 to 1945 and takes its heroine, Christabel Seagrave, from the huge cavity of a beached whale into undercover operations during World War II. Are you intrigued yet? The novel begins one blustery night in 1928. A whale washes up on the shores of the English Channel. By law, the whale would belong to the king, but 12-year-old Christabel has other plans. She and the rest of her household, her sister, her brother, the kitchen maid, and a visiting artist named Taurus, build a theater out of the whale's skeletal rib cage, which becomes, of course, the Whalebone Theater. This is where Christabel can escape her step-parents, her governesses, and her imagination can come to life. As she grows, she becomes quite the headstrong woman. World War II is beginning, and Christabel and her brother Digby become British secret agents on separate missions in Nazi-occupied France. So this takes us from England to France. This, of course, threatens to tear the family apart. So the narrative here is quite creative. It's punctuated by letters, diary entries, and play scripts. It's a textured world. We go from the dilapidated grandeur of the family mansion to scenes with SS agents and the Arc de Triomphe. It's infused also with a love of literature. The Seagrave children are voracious, self-educated readers. They're passionate about Shakespeare, Melville, Homer, and Lewis Carroll. And our author grew up where the book is set in Dorset in the southwest of England. And I just think this is going to take off.
It is intriguing, Liz. And next, we are so excited to welcome Dani Shapiro back to our list. Her new book is a novel, Signal Fires, and it is for readers of Ann Patchett and Celeste Ng, and of course for many of Shapiro's previous fans of her previous books and of her podcast. Signal Fires opens on a summer night in 1985. 3 teenagers have been drinking. One of them gets behind the wheel of a car, and in an instant, everything on Division Street changes. Each of their lives and that of Ben Wilf, a young doctor who arrives at the scene, is shattered. For the Wilf family, the circumstances of that fatal accident will become the deepest kind of secret, one that's so dangerous it can never be spoken of. And on Division Street, time moves on. When the Shankmans arrive, a young couple expecting a baby boy, it's as if the accident never happened. But when Waldo, the Shankmans' brilliant, lonely son, who has a unique ability to find connections in everything, befriends Dr. Wilf, who is now retired and struggling with his wife's decline, all of the past events come hurtling back in ways no one could have ever foreseen. This is Shapiro's first work of fiction in 15 years, and she returns to it with a riveting, deeply felt novel that examines the ties that bind families together and the secrets that can break them apart.
Next up, we have A Murder at Balmoral by Chris McGeorge. The king is dead. The killer is in the family. Solving this murder will be a royal pain. The royal family has gathered at their Scottish retreat, Balmoral Castle, for a traditional Christmas. As a blizzard gathers outside and a delicious dinner is prepared, the family circles up for a holiday toast. King Eric has something momentous to say. In fact, he is about to name his successor, but as he raises a glass of his favorite whiskey, he drops dead. The Crown beats Clue in this delightful locked room mystery, sure to charm Agatha Christie fans and keep readers guessing to the end. This is a cozy read for a wintry day set at Balmoral Castle and a gathering blizzard. It's a perfect pick for mystery readers during the holiday season, and for readers who enjoyed The Windsor Knot by S.J. Watson, for cozy mystery buffs and readers of Richard Osman. And next up, we have Hands Down by Felix Francis. Sid Haley, a private investigator, has a new left hand, having had a transplant since his last appearance in Refusal. After receiving death threats, an ex-jockey trainer friend calls Sid to ask for his help. But Sid has his own problems to deal with, like recovering from surgery and saving his crumbling marriage. When his friend's stable yard is torched, horses killed, and the friend is found dead, Sid can only blame himself for not helping sooner. The police think it's suicide, but Sid is not convinced after his friend's terrified phone calls. Heavy with a guilty heart, Sid starts to investigate and soon finds himself embroiled in a conspiracy that cuts to the very heart of the integrity of British horse racing. This is a perfect read for longtime fans of Felix and Dick Francis, for fans of high action thrillers from authors like Harlan Coben and Michael Connelly, and for readers interested in horses and horse racing.
Next is something very different. This is a new novel from the acclaimed Allegra Goodman, but one that's a bit of a change for her. Goodman is a master of portraying family dynamics, but in her new novel, Sam, she follows a single character from childhood to adulthood, one that's inspired by her own daughter, Sam. There's a girl. Her name is Sam. She adores her father, though he isn't around much. Her mother, Courtney, struggles to make ends meet and never fails to remind her daughter that her life should be different. Sam doesn't fit in at school, where the other girls have the right shade of blue jeans and don't question the rules. Sam doesn't care about jeans or rules. She just loves to climb trees, fences, walls, the side of a building. When she's climbing, she discovers a place that she belongs. As Sam grows into her teens, she grapples with self-doubt and insecurity. She yearns for her climbing coach to notice her, but his attention crosses boundaries and she doesn't know how to resist. She wishes her father would leave for good instead of coming and going, but once he's gone, she realizes how much she's lost. She rages against her mother's constant pressure to plan for a more secure future, and she wrestles with who she wants to be in the face of what she's expected to do. This beautiful novel is deceptively simple. It's about a girl who becomes a woman, but underneath this unforgettable ode to girlhood asks, what happens to a child's sense of joy and belonging and her belief in herself as she grows up? The answer will break your heart, but it will also leave you full of hope too. This is a book for fans of intimate coming-of-age stories like Dear Edward and the Age of Miracles, and films like Lady Bird or Boyhood. And it's also for readers of tearjerker YA books like They Both Die at the End and Before I Fall. In short, this is the perfect book for book clubs.
Age of Vice. Perhaps you've already caught wind of the pre-pub buzz for this novel. We're really pulling out all the stops for it. It's the first in Deepti Kapoor's planned Vice trilogy. It's equal parts crime thriller and family saga, set in contemporary India, an epic story of wealth, corruption, centered around the violent Wadia family. The novel opens in New Delhi at 3 a.m., where a speeding Mercedes jumps the curb and kills 5 people. It's a rich man's car, but when the dust settles, there is a shell-shocked servant who cannot explain what led to this crime. This is set in the shadow of lavish estates, extravagant parties, predatory business deals, and calculated political influence. Three lives become dangerously intertwined. There's Ajay, the watchful servant born into poverty, who rises through the family's ranks. Sunny is the playboy heir who dreams of outshining his father, whatever the cost. And Netta is the curious journalist caught between morality and desire. If this sounds like Succession, you are right on the money. It's an adventure story, nonstop action, but also a deeper look at class, at wealth, at corruption, with filthy rich characters that you loathe and underdogs you root for. It's already been sold to Fox TV, and really the comparisons are so apt for The Sopranos and some of your favorite epic TV family corruption stories. So watch for this in January. And like I said, tons of publicity and author events surrounding it. And now we are going to the world of audiobooks. Just calling out a few special audiobooks that are coming, or this first, The Ghost That Ate Us, that's already available. The Ghost That Ate Us is a true crime style mockumentary. We love those, detailing the events leading up to a massacre at a fast food restaurant. It uses the backdrop of Johnny, Iowa, a truck stop town in a flyover state. Krauss explores the many ways forgotten Americans with little money and less prospects can hasten their own doom. So this is obviously very dark humor. The author is a novelist and a feature film director. He's also the editor at the American Library Association. And then we have Campfire Stories. So this is the new installment of Campfire Stories, the Close Calls. Here are 10 harrowing firsthand tales of survival, taking us from Florida to the Northern Rockies to the Arctic Ocean, including stories from meat eaters Stephen Ranella and Clay Newcomb and a spearfishing champion, Kimmy Warner. It's immersive audio. It features tales from listeners who survived falling through the ice, gunshot and arrowhead wounds, and a spear fisherman who made the best shot of his life to save a friend from certain death. So really harrowing tales. And next we have some sweet, to tie in with our ballet theme here today, some sweet dance audios for kids. Ballet Bunnies, this is the number 6 installment, Trixie is Missing. It's was a full color chapter book and features the most darling dancers you will ever meet. It's for fans of Magic Bunny and Rainbow Magic series. And here, one of the ballet bunnies is missing. It's the day before Millie's big show at the town hall, and she and her mom, and of course the ballet bunnies, spend it walking around town before heading to rehearsal. So cute. And then Finding My Dance is an audio adaptation of professional Indigenous dancer Rhea Thundercloud's debut picture book. Here she tells the true story of her path to dance and how it helped her take pride in her Native American heritage. At 4 years old, Rhea Thundercloud was brought into the powwow circle ready to dance in the special jingle dress her mother had made for her. As she grew up, she danced with her brothers all over Indian country. Then she learned more styles, tap, jazz, ballet, but still loved the expressiveness of Indigenous dance. So despite feeling different as one of the only Native American kids in her school, she always knew she could turn to dance to cheer herself up. So we follow along here as Rhea shares her dance journey from dreaming of her future to performing as a professional. And then such a wonderful series about music. The music is drums, the music is horns. Here are 2 new audiobooks coming in August. And you can make music with this introduction to 4 instrument families. So again, beginning with drums and horns here. This is a new series written and narrated by world-renowned music educator, Dr. Rika Rajan. She's received NEA grants, performed at Carnegie Hall and the John Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. So her South Asian heritage here and her abiding love of music really helps her introduce us to these wonderful music instruments. And I think these will be really fun to listen to with kids. Thank you so much for joining us today. You'll get a wrap up with links. I know some people asked in the chat about the links, so rest assured it's coming. And we just hope you have a great day and have lots of ideas of things to read and order for your patrons.
Thank you very much for coming. And our next buzz will be on September 7th. So enjoy the remainder of your summer. And again, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.